So who knows what XBRL is? Oh, you do already? Shoot. What is it, Mark? Did you watch the videos? There were some videos in the syllabus. Not in the syllabus, but links to the videos in the syllabus. So what else do you know about it?
It's like with the SEC is making all companies submit the format of their financials and all other documents like APAs in this format, so it's like uniform across all of the companies.
Have you used it in your work or studied it?
We talked about the AIS class, but I've never actually used it.
Oh, who taught your AIS class? Oh, of course. That guy is an XBRL expert. He has so many papers on XBRL. Well, good. Then, look, if I miss anything that Dr. No told you, since he's the expert, then let me know. Yeah, but it's just like you said. It's a reporting standard. So public companies are required to report their information that would normally go in their financial reports in XBRL format. Okay. So balance sheet, income statement, statement of cash flows, footnotes, other parts of the 10K, and like you said, 8K are required to be reported in XBRL format. So let's go ahead and talk about okay. So to understand XBRL, you need to first understand XML. And XML stands for Extensible Markup Language. And it is a protocol for transporting data, okay? And not display data. So how many of you remember taking a class where you had to create a web page in HTML? Okay, John, do you remember any of the tags that you use in HTML?
That's like head, body,
Okay, so the body, head, any others? How about formatting tags? How do you make something bold? Yeah, a B, right? So it looks something like this. So B, and then the text B. Okay. So everything in the beginning, after the beginning tag is bolded, then it stops making things bold. This is the end tag. All right. So XML looks like this. All right. But the difference between HTML and XML, the main point of HTML is how to display data. XML is all about understanding what the data mean. Okay. So let me give you an example. So let's say there's a note, like a letter, like an email, okay? What happened to my note? I don't know. So I'm going to have to draw you a note. So what goes in the note, since I've lost it? To, from, heading, body. Okay. So let's say you have a note. And this is the beginning of the note with a note tag, okay? And within a note or an email, what do you usually have? You have who the note is for, right? So let's say to. And the note is to Vianney. And it's from, who's in your group? Mark. And the subject is group meeting. Group meeting. And then the body of the message says, what's it say, Mark? It's your note. Meet at 4. Meet, and then clever, meet at 4 p.m. All right. And that's the end of the note. So you can see we have a little bit of nesting going on. So you have within the note all the different XML tags. So these tags, to, from, subject, body, they don't have any display information, right? They describe the text that's in the tag. And just by reading the tags, you kind of understand the structure of the note. Okay, here's another example. So here we have a higher order tag called messages, and it begins at the top line and ends at the bottom line. And within this tag you have 2 notes, and instead of just having the word note, as I do on the whiteboard, we give the note a property. So a tag consists of consecutive letters, numbers, characters, like this, N-O-T-E. But once there's a space, you can add a property. You can call whatever you want. So in this case, there's a property called ID. And we give it a value, 501. And then we have the rest of the note. In this case, it's to someone named Tove from Johnny, or Janny. Remember, don't forget me this weekend. Then the next note is some sort of a reply, ID 502, to Janny from Tove. Here's the subject line, and it's a reply. It says, I will not what? Forget Janny this weekend. Okay, so that doesn't matter as much as the structure here. This is XML. Any questions? Yeah, Jim.
What's the significance of the ID?
So let's say you want to use a computer to read the XML, and you want to look for a specific ID, a specific note by ID number. Then you can start saying things like, go through the notes and give me the note tag. So it'll give you everything from the beginning to the end, where the note ID is 501. And it uniquely identifies the notes, right? So you wouldn't have another note called 501 since it's an ID, you know, typically. Any other questions? Pretty simple so far, right? Well, let's get a little more complicated. So XBRL. Everything correct so far, Mark? Okay. You know, if Juan were here, I'd be shaking in my boots. You Dr. No, he's the expert. XML for business data, all right? So if you notice, there is some uniformity between these 2 notes on the tag that's used for the, for who is to receive the note, the recipient, the tag for the sender, the tag for the subject and the tag for the body of the note. So they're all the same, and this is important. So let's say I am a software programmer and I write a little email program called an email client, like Outlook, or what's an old school one? An old one? No? AOL? Huh? Netscape Mail? Pegasus. Pegasus. That's okay. So let's say I write a new program and I want to be able to look at these notes that are transmitted in XML, but I want to then my program will then display them in a certain way, however I want. Okay. Although there's no display information here, if I have a email client, I'll probably want to extract the information, put the subject, above the body, things like that. So if every note is written in the same way with the same tags, then my email client has to be programmed once to say, all right, the subject line has the tag heading, the body of the note has the tag body, and the to and from tags. Okay. So by having consistency, by everyone following the exact same set of XML tags, then you can efficiently move information around, and computers can now read the tags and understand the data within the tags. Does that make sense? So that's the idea behind XBRL. XBRL is XML for business data. So instead of having tags for components of an email, you'll have tags for components of a financial statement. And these tags are predefined, just as these tags might be predefined. We'll all agree to use the same tags for an email. And the list of tags and their definitions are put in a location called a taxonomy. Okay? So the taxonomy has the master list of all the tags and what they mean. So here's the tag for current assets. Here's all the different tags for our liabilities. Here's all the different tags for income. Okay? So those tags are predefined. So a company that wants to transmit data in XML or XBRL needs to put the right tag around the right information. Okay? And tags have attributes called properties. So you see this is a property of the note tag, ID equals 501. Well, XBRL tags have properties too. So here's an example of an XBRL tag with data. So the name of the tag comes first. And you know when the name starts because it's the first thing within the tag. And you know what it ends when there's a space. So this is the name of the tag, US GAAP assets current. Okay? So that would be the tag for current assets for those following US GAAP. So there are some properties, there are multiple properties. Okay, the first one is called ID, and it has a name, fact, dash, then this long, probably is a globally unique identifier. So it's just an ID, but it's a very long ID to make sure no one else uses the same one. And then there's the context ref property, which appears to give a reference to the quarter and year in which this information came from. The unit ref tag property gives you the type of currency that the information within the tag is in. And then the decimals tag will tell you how precise the data is. So how precise? So it says -6. So the last 6 digits would be a 0. It's rounded. Okay, so now that we've looked at the tag and its properties, the opening tag ends, and here's the bit of information within the tag. And what do you think this number represents? Mark? The amount of current assets for the company. And what else do we know about this number? It's in US dollars. So it's you could say 4.604, is that billion? 3.6, yeah, so it's 4.604 billion, right? What else do we know? You know, the time period, right? And then this is the closing tag. And you don't have to put all the properties again. You just put the name of the tag with the / in front of it. A lot of information for this little number. But the good news is XML and XBRL are meant to be read by machines, not humans. So you can imagine, and you may have seen, a document with thousands of XBRL tags, and it would be impossible to read and understand as a human. But if there is a systematic way of naming the tags and declaring the properties of the tags, then a computer can read the tags and then understand the information. All right? So let's go a little deeper into XBRL. So there were some interesting, and since I'm being recorded, I'll say very entertaining webinars on the web, and you can see them by going to xbrl.org and the Getting Started page. And the two webinars are called What is XBRL and XBRL Building Blocks in a little more detail. And they give a good background and overview of what XBRL is, what it's for, and what it can do. They're about 10 minutes long each, so I urge you guys to watch these webinars since they are material that is in the syllabus, so I could draw exam questions from that material. Also, if you are having trouble sleeping, well, never mind. Okay. So let's get some student participation. Anyone who would like to read this slide? Annika. Nice and loud because I can't hear with that thing running here. Okay, so an XBRL implementation contains facts, instance documents, concepts, and taxonomies. Now you guys have already seen 2 of these. So the fact is actually this number right here that you're defining with the big tag. And the concept, the third thing on that list, is represented by the name of the tag. So the concept is current assets, so you have a current assets tag. All right? I've already talked about taxonomy, which is your list of concepts that are predefined. So that's 3 of the 4. And I haven't told you what this is, but an instance document contains all the facts, the tags with the facts in them. Okay, so that's what XBRL is. All right, Michael, did you read this one?
Instance document is a collection of facts that together make up a basic report. At the technical level, instance document is a functional document.
Okay, so instance document has a collection of facts. It has a bunch of tags in it, with facts within the tags. All right, Alan, will you read this one?
A fact is an individual piece of information in a report. For example, reporting that profit and acne increase in 2013 was 10 million created a fact. The fact is represented or reporting the value of 10 million is a concept representing profit, and associating it with contextual information representing giving it dollars. The period 2013 and the entity acne. At the technical level, facts are represented by elements.
All right, so let's go over this. It's a little bit techie speak. So we already know this. A fact is an individual piece of information, such as the profit reported, $10 million. Okay, and there's always a concept associated with the fact. So the piece of information is 10 million, but the concept would be profit. And this is also saying that each concept has properties such as the units, the period, and the name of the, here it says the name of the company, Acme Inc. All right, any questions so far? Everything straightforward? Okay. Aiden. Or is it Aiden?
Is a definition that provides the meaning for a fact. For example, profit, turnover, and assets would be typical concepts. At a technical level, concepts correspond to element definitions in XML schema.
Yeah. All right. So concepts are the ideas that we need to report on in our financial statements. And Jose.
Taxonomy. A taxonomy is a collection of concepts and definitions. Typically, a taxonomy will correspond to a particular public domain. For example, taxonomies exist for many accounting standards such as IFRS, Polaris Regional Gap Standards, as well as for reporting requirements for individual regulators, government agencies, and large enterprises. Technically, a taxonomy consists of XML schemas, documents containing element definitions, and a collection of XML documents based that provide additional information that form part of the concept definition.
Okay. So we know that a taxonomy is the collection of predefined concepts, right? So within a reporting domain such as GAAP, we know that there are concepts that will dictate what we share in our financial statements and in our financial reports. So we have a taxonomy that predefines those concepts, and the taxonomy is put into one place. And anyone can access the taxonomy, so they know how to produce an XBRL document, okay? So that taxonomy, that document would be called an XML schema, which has the definition of all the concepts, okay? And then it hints at other XML documents that provide additional information. They're called linkbases. We'll talk about that later. Any question as to what a taxonomy is? Yeah, Jim.
How do you deal with something where you have, say, you have operations let's say, U.S. and Japan? Is it still, I guess, it's not really a taxonomy question. What does it do about dealing with the language differences?
Okay, so language differences are actually dealt with in what are called the link bases. So what link bases do is, in this case, is they'll take one word, one concept like current assets, then it will provide several different ways of representing it depending on the language you want to use. All right. So much of the power of XBRL standard comes from the ability to publish reporting requirements in a standard format. So this is what I just said. You can publish a taxonomy and mandate that everyone follow the same taxonomy. Everyone uses the same tags to report financial information. And this allows compliance software to read the documents. And then the software can use those requirements to also produce the reports that are needed that meet the requirements. So you'll have software that reads XBRL documents, and you'll also have software that produces XBRL documents according to the taxonomy. So let me ask you guys, have we talked enough about XBRL where you can kind of think about what might be the advantages of using XBRL? Or why is this development? Why is this progress? Mark.
Well, if you have a program that, well, if you're trying to compare like the financial data of a few different companies, if it wasn't in a specific standard language, there'd be no way to mechanically do that. Like now you can just download the XBRL, put it into your program, and it will instantly side by side all numbers. It's extremely easy.
Okay. Jose. Oh.
Exactly what Mark said. Maybe also I think so. It's like, let's say you know how like my balance sheet, like for my company, will not look like the same as another company because we have like different formats. Like one that has it this way or with that many spaces, or the other company will have it like different fonts. Like the FBRL, like just formats everything like the same way. So when my computer read it, it will tell you as the same way as like it was like in your balance sheet.
Okay, so right now, I think what you're saying is financial statements look slightly different when people prepare them and publish them. But XBRL isn't about presentation, strictly. So what I've shown you so far is just about information and how it's defined with the concept tags. And then the software can render that information however it wants. But if it's in XBRL, then you're good to go. Jim, you had your hand up too. Okay, well. Okay. Stephanie?
I was going to say, that also kind of loses the disadvantage because the software writes taxonomy. What's an example?
So the taxonomy would be defined by this what's that?
If it's standardizing it, like duplicates it, and there's a mistake, we can't really read that once it's implemented live.
That's true. Though there are, I mean, there's error checkers
Right.
built in the software.
Obviously, it's like susceptible to.
It's absolutely susceptible to mistakes. So there are tons of mistakes in XBRL documents. Probably, I'd hope fewer now than there used to be, since back 5-6 years ago when they were piloting XBRL, and it was kind of on a volunteer basis, you'd have more mistakes, and not everyone was reporting in XBRL. But nowadays, everyone does. I assume there are fewer mistakes. Oh, sure.
What about like if there's a tag that doesn't exist like in the current taxonomy, like let's say things change and there's like a new tag, like how do you like create it?
Man, that's a great question. Yeah, you create it. That's what you do. You can create your own tags. I'll talk about that. But it's called, everyone files taxonomy extension document. And those are for if you created any new tags and defined them, then they go in that document. So if you go look on EDGAR, where the SEC repository for all the financial statements, filings, you'll see a taxonomy extension document. So if you created any new tags, that's where you'd put them. We'll talk about that too. Yeah.
Is this information input manual by
So you would think originally the taxonomy was developed manually. Once, it was once defined by a bunch of experts who knew what the best, or thought they knew, or they're working on making the best XBRL tags possible. So they created the taxonomy, and so everyone else then follows that, and it's more automated. So your software is supposed to read the taxonomy. Your software is supposed to then create XBRL documents based on that taxonomy, or generate reports based on that taxonomy. Okay. So, or read the XBRL documents that were created. I'll show you some examples. So it's going to be pretty solid in your minds, I think, here in a few minutes. So most XBRL implementations require, first, someone, like I said, some people create a taxonomy, right? There's a taxonomy that captures and standardizes the reporting requirements. That's what's required first. Then the taxonomy is published, so organizations that need to prepare reports using that taxonomy, using the tags, the same tags, okay, they can look at this published taxonomy and create reports that meet the requirements in the taxonomy. So after the taxonomy is published, organizations can prepare instance documents. And remember, instance documents are the documents that contain all the tags with the facts in them. Then software could validate the instance documents or correct those documents. Make sure that they comply with the constraints in the taxonomy. Then the instance document is transmitted to the relevant recipients, and they can in turn validate the instance documents and make sure they meet the requirements needed. Then, since all the information is now being passed around in instance documents, all the financial information, it can be stored, aggregated, analyzed in several ways. With business intelligence systems and so on. So, while very frequently used by regulators, including securities regulators, prudential regulators, tax regulators, and by business registrars around the world, XBRL is also used across government agencies for intragovernmental reporting, by stock exchanges, large supply chains, within investment banks and analyst firms. Okay, so everyone's using XBRL if they think that it will help their business. It's all about standardization and automation. If you can standardize the way data is transmitted, then you can automate the transmission and analysis of the data and gain efficiencies and competitive advantage. And also it increases transparency. More people can see the data. I'll come back to the presentation, but let's just go and look at an XBRL document, okay? So, all right. So if I go on to the Edgar database, and I search for a company, okay. Alan, which company should I search for? What? Any company? Yeah, any company. Any public company. Southwest Airlines. Southworst. No. That's what my uncle calls them. All right. I actually typed southwest. Okay, southwest. I actually fly Southwest. I find them, they meet my needs. Okay. So I think this is the one. Let's look for, well, here's a 10Q. So let's click on the documents here. Let me zoom in a bit for you guys. All right. So 10Q, it was just filed end of April. And you have the 10Q itself, right? You know, they put this, they're like slogan, they have a heart for their logo, so they put love in front of their document name. So it's a cultural thing. So even in their filings, SEC filings, they have love. All right. All right. So let's click on it. Let me zoom out here. All right. So here's a 10Q. There's the heart I told you about. Looks like they're in Texas. Yeah, I knew that. So let's see. Financial statements. Total current assets. So they're going up by $500 million from last quarter. Really? It's pretty good, I guess. What about their income statement? There's net income. Okay. So they made $453 million. Well, good for them. All right. So that's their 10Q. All right. So let's go back. All right. If you look down here, you can see all of the XBRL documents. All right. So most of these are called extension documents, and that has to do with when you make your own tag, then you have to provide a bunch of information that goes along with it. Okay, but let's just open up the XML, the XBRL instance document. All right. And this is what you get. What? What a mess. Okay, so let's look for their current assets. Okay, Control F. I think it's still called assets current. Okay. Whoops. All right. So there are 8 matches, which means there are 4 tags that have those words. All right. So what are their current assets? So in Q1 of 2015, we have this number, 4.9 billion, and the end of December 2014, 4.4 billion. So that's the same thing we saw in the balance sheet within the 10Q. All right. So pretty good. Now what you also get is this button called interactive data, and what this does is it makes use of the XBRL and lets you click around. So let's click on interactive data. Let me zoom back in. Okay, so I could go to the financial statements, balance sheet, and you can click on a concept. such as total current assets, and it defines it for you. So this is all XBRL. So there's a definition link base, which will tell you the definitions of each concept. There's also a references link base, and it gives you more information about, like, authoritative information about this tag. And there's what other the details? What does that have in it? Okay, so this is the name of the tag, the prefix, and the data type, balance type, period type. All right, so pretty neat. So we can go and look at XBRL documents online. We'll come back to this. So let's learn a little bit more about XBRL. Let's try to close that. All right. This is just saying that XBRL can add regional information. So you don't have to put a new profit tag for every region that you work in. Instead, you can designate region in a separate axis in a separate way. Okay, so you'll see that here in a second. So this was the idea brought up by Jose. Were you the, or was it Aiden? Who said, "What if you don't have a tag that you need?" It was you, Jose. So XBRL is extensible. It's actually what the X stands for, Extensible Business Reporting Language. So sometimes you don't have the tag you need to represent the activities in your business. So you can't report on them with any of the predefined tags. So what you do is you create your own tag, and you put the definition of the tag and all the information about the tag in one of the extension documents. Okay, so XBRL does let you do that. So under US GAAP, everyone files extension documents. Even if you don't have any extensions, you'll always see extension documents. And IFRS doesn't allow extensions. So there's another difference for you guys. Unless it's changed since I last read that, but that's my current understanding. So XBRL has been designed to allow taxonomies to be extended. For example, international taxonomies may be extended by national regulators or large enterprises, and so on. Okay, so here's a high-level diagram of XBRL, which is slightly hard to understand. So you have this instance document with facts, okay? And the facts have other information such as the context of the facts, the units of the facts, and the fact, etc. And every fact is described by a concept, which is the tag. And the concepts are related to a lot of different things and these link bases. So let's go ahead and look at the different link bases related to a concept. So like you said, Jim, there's a label link base which gives different ways of representing the same concept. So it might be a different language. All right, and there are other link bases too, like the reference link base and the calculation link base. Okay, there's calculation right there. Okay, let's skip all this. So this is for your information, so you can, it's like a glossary for you guys to remember what these words mean. So the different link bases give even more information to XBRL concepts, the tags that surround the facts, right? So the label link base provides the human readable strings for concepts, okay? So this is the label link base, right? So here is the concept as the computer would read it, and here's the label so that the human can read it. So this is what we would see for this label, all right? But let's say there's a different language, such as German. Who speaks German here? Or reads it? No one else? Okay, Jim, you said a little bit. So how would you say this? Okay, that's probably better than I would do. So this is German, the exact same concept, but a different label. Okay, and here's another language, and I don't even know what that is. Polish? Polish? Yeah, Polish. I thought it would be, yeah, I didn't know. So also, you can give different names in the same language depending on the role of the label, okay? So each label can take on different roles. So here you have the label, the role for this concept is just the label, and this role is a little bit, drills down a little bit. It's the period start label. So if you see this concept for this with this role, then it'll give a different label to this concept. And here period end gives this concept an even different label with ending balance, all right? So the reference link base is, and you see these are XML documents as well. So the reference link base gives the authoritative reference for certain concepts. So if you look at this concept, cash flows from used in operations total, then you can go to the International Auditing Standard 7, paragraph 14, and learn all about this concept. So you know what to report there. And here's another reference for the same concept, looks like. Yeah, so reference number 2, IAS 7, paragraph 18, subparagraph A. And we saw this in the when I was browsing through the XBRL document on Edgar. Yeah, Mark.
Why is the word sign with caret on reference at the end?
The right, you mean here?
Yeah. Why is it not at the beginning and then it has a reference ending? Like how we have in the note, how it's closed at the beginning and then at the end it's got the slash, but this one has a bunch of information in between.
Okay, so these would be some of the properties of the reference. It's just properties. So the type of reference is resource. I'm not sure what all the different types are, but I guess you can give a type. You can give a role to the reference, a label to the reference. So they're just different properties that are being set.
So for like the note, it would just be like whatever default is like the note.
So this isn't about formatting. So we had that one note with one property, the ID, right? ID 501. And this is just adding more and more information about this reference that we have, International Auditing Standard 714. So it tells you what is in this reference. So you can add as many properties as you want. And honestly, if Dr. No were here, he would tell you what the type meant better than I could. Yeah. So does that make any sense? That, yeah, we could add more properties. We could say, put a space here and say favorite reference equals, or let's see, person whose favorite reference this is, and then you put Kevin, because I really love this reference. Okay. I mean, it doesn't matter. You could put that. Wouldn't change anything, except it would be confusing. Calculation link base. So what this link base does, so this is, remember the link bases are like separate XBRL documents. They're like, and they describe the concepts. So the calculation link base will relate to the concepts such as, it'll link concepts together like gross profit and total revenue, and it will tell you how they relate to each other. So maybe it's one is part of the other, right? So there's some sort of ordering and weighting, and you say it's a summation item. Another part of gross profit could be cost of sales, and it's also a summation item, but since the weight is negative, it has a different relationship than total revenue does. Okay, and its order is number 2. All right, so with calculation link base, you can actually take the numbers in your XBRL document and sum them up and see if they make sense. See if the values are consistent, okay? So you don't actually use these values. You wouldn't use the calculation link base to actually calculate gross profit, but you could check to see if the value that you put in for gross profit is consistent with the other values that you put in. That would be the components of gross profit. Okay, so there's a definition link base, which links concepts to each other, such as is a, whole part, etc. And then this link base provides the taxonomy creators with the opportunity to define different kinds of relationships between the elements, between the concepts. And finally, we have the presentation link base, which is actually some XBRL tags are meant for presentation purposes. So this assets tag exists, but there's no data in that tag. But it exists because when you create a report, you're going to put it above and to the left, or you're going to indent the other items underneath the assets, right? So there's actually a tag for assets in XBRL with no information, but it exists so the presentation link base can show where to put the other tags in relation to assets if you want to automatically format the document. So I said XBRL is largely for transporting information using the right tags, but this link base exists to help with the presentation of the information. Okay? Okay. So one of the criticisms of XBRL is that it only conveys summary information found in financial statements. That's its purpose, And so it's no more useful than having the financial statements in the first place. So some people took it a step further. And one of the presenters of one of those webinars, Eric Cohen, he helped to create what's called XBRL GL. Okay, so XBRL Global Ledger. So now you can tag all the individual items of information that are in an ERP system. So every piece of data can have an XBRL GL tag. And I'm not an expert in XBRL GL, but apparently it allows for the ability to drill down to the transactional events even after it's already been summarized. Okay, so let's say you took one of these aggregate measures, such as total revenue, okay, and you started drilling down, and you could get to the individual transactions that make up that number. So that's the point of XBRL GL. So clearly this information wouldn't be made public like the regular financial statement information that's required to be made public. You know, companies don't give away all their data. But there is a push for some of the data to be made public. And I'll talk a little bit about that in the next part of class. So here at Rutgers, you're at a location where some of the people who were when XBRL started, some of the people who were in the first conversations of XBRL are some of the professors here at Rutgers, and those who like Eric Cohen and others from some partners from the Big Four who were involved in the process of creating XBRL. So they regularly come to Rutgers and discuss topics with our professors. Not me so much. I'm not an XBRL guy. But so there's another series of meetings going on between these stewards of our information, and they're creating something called the Audit Data Standard. So this is particularly important for those who want to audit companies, such as these public auditors. And what it's going to do is what they're trying to do is create a standard for information that's typically requested by auditors. So that information is like readily available as soon as you need it, and can be processed using certain audit applications or computer applications that auditors need to to run their tests on the information. Okay, so let's go to a website here and look at the gap taxonomy. xbrlview.fasb.org. So you guys can go here on your own computer, or xbrlview.fasb.org. All right, so now I can view the whole taxonomy that I've been talking about. There's predefined tags, as well as the associated link bases. Okay, it says select the taxonomy. Okay. Oh man. Well, I don't care. I think I still got it. Okay. Income statement. So I am drilling down through this hierarchy of tags. So here we have this abstract income statement tag. It's just like a label like I was talking about. It doesn't have any information in it, but it's the top label for income statement. So it's kind of creating this hierarchy of information. Let's look at the net income here. All right. So the net income. All right. So let's see. This is all right. So there's certain properties such as the value of this concept. Here's the name. This is the net income loss available to common stockholders, basic. All right, here's the data type, XBRL type. Let's get out of the income statement. Let's go back to the all right. Total assets. Okay, so here's the label. So that's the human readable label. Here's the definition. So you can see there are relationships between this concept of total assets and other concepts, and you can see where they all are. So this is from the calculations link base. Okay, tree location. So here are the different. There's the references link base that tells you where you can find out more about the total assets concept. So here are the properties. So this, yeah, pretty interesting stuff, huh? You can just read that and memorize the taxonomy. Or if you use computer program, it'll read the taxonomy for you and tell you where you should put your total assets information. All right. So to bring this home, I have done something I think is pretty cool. And I know you guys have been wondering, when is this going to get really cool? And let me show you. So I created, and did I put it on Blackboard? Let's go check out Blackboard. Blackboard. Okay. So I created a VBA function that extracts XBRL data from instance documents. So I actually made the computer read the instance document, which is what what they're for. So let's open this guy. Take that sneeze out of the. Okay, thanks. Let's open it in Acrobat. Okay, so you guys can see that. So here's my function. See, it's a VBA function procedure. So what this function does is it extracts XBRL data from an instance document. And it will display that information on a worksheet. So here's what you guys are going to do. You're going to look at this, which isn't that long. It's only 42 lines of code, and it's almost double spaced. So what you're going to do is work in pairs, and I want you to go line by line through this document, and I want you to describe what each line does. So I'll get you started, and then I'll assign the pairs. So the first line sets the name of the function. It's called getXBRLData. And then it says that there are two parameters. and one is optional. So the parameter that's required is called tag name. I just called it tag name because I think that describes the parameter that I want, and it's of type string. And the optional parameter is called period, and it's type variant, and it has a default value of less than sign, and I don't know why. I don't think it matters that it has a default value, but it's optional. It's called period, and type variant means it can kind of take on any type. It could be a string, it could be a number type, okay? So it's type variant. So that's what the first line does. So what the tag name actually refers to, I'll tell you, is the name of a tag. So US GAAP current assets current. Okay, that'd be one tag. So to run this function, you need to give it a tag name, and then what it gives you in return is the number in that tag. And the period that's optional, what it does is I can say 2014, 2015. I can give a date, because what you see is tags, the same tag name is there multiple times, because, for example, in a balance sheet, you always compare years, right? You compare one year to another. So the same tag will appear multiple times in the instance document, but it'll have different periods. So if you specify the period, then you can get the value you want for that tag name. Does that make sense? No? Well, in the instance document I once showed you, do I still have it open? No. So when I went back to Edgar Southwest, and I showed you that, you see how we have the current quarter and the last quarter? We have this value of assets, total assets, for the current quarter and the last quarter. Well, that means that those numbers will be in there twice in the XBRL document. So what this code does that I wrote, what it does is it reads the XBRL document here. It reads one of these. So this is the input, okay? So imagine this is the input. If I'm looking for that tag again, you see how it's there more than once? Here it's here twice, right here. These are the ending tags. So it's here twice, but if they have different periods. So this is 2014, this is 2015. So that's why you can, the function I wrote, you can put the period, the year in there, and it will give you different numbers depending on the period. Okay, so what your job is then is to figure out what everything here does. The goal is for you to learn VBA. So for example, this function, what's cstring do? What the file path, it's just the location of the instance document that I'm analyzing. All right. So yeah, you guys are not going to understand everything, but understand as much as you can, and then we'll go over it together and see how it works.